Hello, I'm Warren Hall, the National Manager of Support Services for the American Liver Foundation. I want to welcome you to another episode of our Liver Chat series, where we engage medical experts and others for brief discussions on timely topics related to liver disease, liver health, and wellness. For those of you who have been regular followers of this Liver Chat series, this episode is going to be a little bit different because instead of a medical expert, we have another type of expert with us today. We have a chef, Chef Craig Hutchinson. Chef Craig is the owner-operator of Olmel Bagelry in New Haven, Connecticut. But he's not here today to discuss bagel recipes. We're going to save that one for another time. But he's here today because in the summer of 2020, he and his wife, Kara, received the news that no parent ever wants to hear. And that is that their 7-month-old son, Teddy, was diagnosed with a rare form of liver cancer. We're going to discuss what that was like, what was involved with it, and what his family experience can offer to others who are facing similar circumstances. So Chef, thank you so much for stepping away from your restaurant. I know you came out of the kitchen, but you're in your office there. And we really do appreciate the fact that you've joined us here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So first of all, how is Teddy doing? That's what we want to say right off the bat.
He is in the midst of being a terrible 2 right now. Okay. He's doing it a little bit early. He turns 2 on October 31st. So he is the joke is that he's a little werewolf born on Halloween. And he is running around daycare and giving my wife a nice hard time at home.
All right, well, that's good news then. Okay, so that's, I'm sure your wife does not mind at all that he's giving her that kind of a hard time.
He is cancer free. And for us, that's his health is all that matters.
Great. So let's take a step back now. So what was the type of cancer that was discovered that Teddy had?
Teddy had a liver cancer called hepatoblastoma. Blastomas translate to a solid mass tumor. So there are multiple different kinds of blastoma, and hepato just means liver. So basically at diagnosis, he had approximately the size of a grapefruit. It was a little bit more oblong, but the size of a grapefruit tumor growing off of the left-hand side of his liver and grew all the way around, pushing all of his organs up. So hepatoblastomas are as scary as it is to hear that that your kid is diagnosed with cancer. We were told that the odds are very good. They're actually above 90% right now for survival and for curability. Curability being no cancer in 5 years after being told you're in remission. Okay. So yeah. Hepatoblastoma to answer your question.
So how first? So did you notice that something was not right, or did something come up in maybe his routine visit to a doctor? How did this all start?
Yeah, so it was kind of a crazy turn of events for us because we thought our son was completely healthy. Everybody thinks that their kid is the most beautiful and the smartest and the most healthy, and we thought that he was blessed with rock hard abs as well. And also, so little did we know that a kid's belly is supposed to be nice and squishy. And when we went to our 4-month checkup with our pediatrician, we actually told the pediatrician that we had noticed Teddy's left limbs, so his left leg and his left arm, were bigger. They weren't noticeably bigger to the general public, but when you're around your kid every single day, you start to notice little nuances. So yeah, when we brought it up, the doctor said, It's really not a problem when it's left and right. It's more of a problem we worry about top and bottom growing at different rates. So 2 months went by. He was up for his 6-month checkup. And the doctor just started out with saying, hey, I've done some research. I want to schedule a blood test with a geneticist to rule out a rare genetic disorder. She's like, don't look this up. I don't want you to look and find out what could be the ultimate worst thing. In most 90% of cases, it's nothing if he even has it. So that's called Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. Beckwith-Wiedemann is a genetic mutation off of the left on the 11th chromosome. Sorry, and so upon going to the geneticist, which we obviously looked everything up because hard to tell a parent not to, so we knew that cancer was a potential side effect that can occur in 10% of Beckwith-Wiedemann patients, one being hepatoblastoma, and the other form of cancer being a Wilms tumor, which grows on the kidneys. And upon meeting our geneticist at Yale, you could tell they knew right away. They did a quick, just a quick grab of his stomach. You could hear her exclaim, oh, I want to just do the blood work. His blood work came back the next day with abnormal AFP levels. AFP levels are, AFP is sent out by our liver, and levels increase drastically when something is wrong, because they're essentially, the body doesn't know what it's supposed to be doing. And so with the high AFP levels, doctors knew right away. We still didn't know what that meant. And when we brought him into Yale for a scan, that's when everything was confirmed. So in about a 2-day process, we went from learning what Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome was, not knowing if he had it, but knowing that he had cancer. And so he was admitted right away for what his treatment plan was going to be.
Okay, so one of the important things that you said there was, and it's given geography, is that you happen to be near one of the prime liver centers probably in the country up there in Yale. We know that the American Liver Foundation, the number of the hepatologists and gastroenterologists there are part of some of our programming. So the first thing was that you were very fortunate to be near a center that can do all of this right away. So that's,
yeah, we actually came to find out that we weren't just at one of the top. For what Teddy has, we have one of the top solid mass tumor oncologists in the country at Yale, in Yale Pediatrics, and also one of the top surgeons in the country for solid mass tumors, and also we're acquiring, as if it was trades or free agent signings, Boston Children's pediatric solid mass tumor surgeon as well. So when everybody was like, you have to transport him to Boston or bring him down to New York, we know doctors. As we found out more, we understood it was kind of, if you're going to be anywhere with this, Yale's where you want to be.
Sure. And so now, so he's in the hospital, and what is the treatment? So what is done now? Okay, from that first day he was there. So just take us through, kind of what was the treatment like? What was done and how was it done? And how did he respond to that? Not just even respond medically, but as a little person.
Yeah, so it is 6 rounds of chemo treatment. Each chemo treatment takes all of 24 hours. And you get them once a month is the schedule. So theoretically, in 6 months, just over 6 months, you can walk away with nothing. But they do 2 treatments, a scan to see what the progress is, another treatment, and if you need it, another scan, because they're trying to determine from a surgical standpoint, are they going to be resecting the tumor, which means taking some healthy tissue off of the liver as well as all of the tumor, or are they in a transplant scenario, at which point they can take a portion of a adult healthy liver and put it into the patient while taking out the full tumor and liver. So Teddy did not do well with chemotherapy. You're given 4 different kinds of drugs. The European model, you're only given 1. And we submitted him into a case study, which we were hoping that he would get the European treatment, because the statistics, you get like another 2 points of statistics on your side. But luckily he was not, they basically flip a coin as to which side of the study you go on. And he was put onto the American side. And the reason why I say fortunately is because the one drug that really ripped him apart was that one drug that the Europeans just go all in on.
So this was a clinical trial that he was put in.
This was it. Yeah, we submitted him to the clinical trial. Yes.
Okay.
Case study. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, that's an important, because sometimes people shy away from that because they think experimental and they're concerned about that. But obviously, in your case, the idea of participating in a clinical trial really, in some ways, it sounds like made all the difference.
Yeah, we had good odds on our side. We saw the benefit of both. The American one being a little bit more patient friendly, the European side being the more curable friendly. But ultimately, when you're going to beat it, you're hoping to beat it. You're looking to be able to give information to future cases. So we wanted to have all of his stats recorded along the way. So so basically, what happened for him is his kidneys started to fail. Which is a side effect of this drug, which is called cisplatin. It can happen. It's where his kidneys actually stop retaining electrolytes. And for me and a lot of the listeners, electrolytes in my mind was Gatorade. Right. And so we'll just give him some Gatorade and he'll be fine. I didn't understand that, and my wife as well, that that electrolytes are what make our brain function. They're what make our heart function. It makes our whole body, when we're at that perfect equilibrium of electrolytes, we function properly. So we were basically on a time crunch every single time that he would receive his treatment as to how fast his kidneys were going to start to fail. And he was readmitted about 5 days after treatment every single time with electrolyte complications. And every single round was different. It was probably by the 5th round, that's when they really understood, this is the cocktail that gets Teddy through to the next round so that we can get the next round of drugs in him. So he, like a lot of us, he just laid down. He slept a lot. When he was up, he was in excruciating pain. He had a lot of all the side effects that they say could happen did happen to him, and they were all really painful side effects. So he was. We learned a lot about what painkillers are and how they function, and we were very liberal in our thought process with it, saying that these are not something that he'll become addicted to afterwards. This is merely just getting him through each day so that he could not just be crying all the time. I mean, imagine a 7-month-old just being in chemo pain. It's awful. So he stopped eating. So we because he had this thing called mucositis, which is sores develop all the way from your lips down to where everything exits. And he had a feeding tube in where he was given rounds of formula. He was given rounds of TPN, which is something that actually goes into the liver and is where he gets all of his fats. That was on and off a lot, which is also something that they don't really like to do, especially when your liver isn't fully healthy.
Right.
But yeah.
So he goes through this, and realistically, of course, not happy with it, as not a grown person wouldn't be happy with that. So when did you begin to see like things kind of letting up, and then beginning to see the positives, the positive news begin to come your way?
So at the end of round 2, the beginning of round 3, with his scan, they said we have good news and we have bad news. The good news is that over 50% of the tumor is already dead. Which means the chemotherapy is working incredibly well. The bad news is that the tumor was growing around, or had grown around, a major artery running from your legs into your heart. And there's no way that the surgery you can't do resection of parts of a hepatoblastoma. It's very toxic inside. So you either have to remove the whole thing or not, but they couldn't just rip it off of this artery. It would need to be a much more complicated surgery. So they basically said, hey, beginning of round 3, you guys are more of a liver transplant pattern right now, from what we've seen, than a resection candidate. So he has one more round to really show us that like the tumor is going to shrink off of that artery, and then we can talk about resection again. So it was the end of round 4, the worst scan that we had ever had to patiently wait through, because liver transplants are, they're awful. They're life-changing. It completely changes the course of your life, and you're very lucky to be able to get a new liver, and you're very lucky to survive it. It's complicated. It's not your best case scenario.
Yeah.
But the doctors walked in and they just go, we have no idea how it happened, but in that one spot, the liver died and shrunk around that artery, and we're able to go in for resection. And that was a moment of a sigh of relief that like, you're now in some of the best hands in the world to take out this massive tumor and have the rest of your life maybe be normal, maybe. Yeah. So the surgery at the end of round 4 was a huge success. They got a lot of healthy tissue with it, which is what they want. And then it was just rounds 5 and 6 that you have to just go through the same kidney complications and febrile neutropenia, which is where you're basically, your body can get itself very sick through bacteria or fungus or anything. So yeah, Teddy went through a lot of central lines. Those are what you feed all the chemo drugs into. So he went through 5 central lines in 6 rounds because they kept getting infected and everything. So
was he in the hospital during all this, or were you going back and forth?
I think the longest amount of time we ever spent at home was a full week. That was actually after round 4. Round 4 was like the best round. We spent a full week at home, and then we went back in. But usually we were going straight from like, okay, he's cleared to go home. We'd spend a day or 2 at home, and then he'd go back in. And because of COVID, it was only one parent in at a time. So my wife and I pretty much did 8 months of FaceTiming and Zoom calling each other.
So when the final round was done, then what did the doctors tell you, or what was the like looking ahead to what happens now?
He gets scans every 3 months. The scans are looking at that AFP blood level, which went from, I believe they were just over 2 million when he was diagnosed. His last AFP, he was at 26. You want to be as low as you can be on those levels. So yeah, 26 is a very good number. So when they drew his AFPs on the final round, he was at like 200 something, which is a huge improvement. And because of the healthy surgery, the oncologist said, like, the only complications you can be looking at right now are if the cancer spread on a microscopic level into his lungs, which is possible and so far has not, knock on wood. And he also, just because of his Beckwith-Wiedemann, he falls right back into the percentages of Wilms tumors. So the coolest part about Beckwith-Wiedemann is it's one of the only genetic mutations or genetic diseases that get better over time. So when he clears the age of 8, all of the percentages of everything go down into like micro percentages of things happening. So he'll be getting scans until he's 8 years old as just a kid with a weird syndrome.
Yeah. So, and I guess that's to be expected, right? Not just of kids, but even adults. You know, there's that ongoing monitoring and those types of things that happen. But obviously now that he's developed into the terrible twos, obviously it sounds like things are on track, or as much on track as probably that is hoped in a condition like his.
Doctors are very optimistic about his prognosis in terms of like cancer. He works with occupational therapy and with speech. He lost hearing from his from that cisplatin drug, and so he's a little delayed on his speech. But we are all learning American Sign Language to keep him being able to communicate with us, and he picks up on that very well. He has more hair than, I mean, as you can tell, it's probably not a problem with our genes, but he's got tons of hair, which is really cool to show people, like, this is what he looked like in January, and now you can put him in a man bun already. So yeah, he's doing really well, and we've had an amazing support system to be able to get us through.
Well, and that's going to lead into my next question. That is, let's turn the focus on you and your wife. Now, I did read a newspaper article about what had happened, what was going on. And in the newspaper article, and I'm just looking at it here, there's a quote where you and your wife said that you just wanted to roll up into a ball and pretend this wasn't happening. You know, that's a pretty common feeling, not just in parents, I think, who see their children going through medical stuff, but even adults themselves when this happened. What is it that assisted you? Now, you just mentioned your support system, so I'm sure that that's going to be part of what kind of lifted you guys out of that funk. Is that how you guys handle that yourselves in dealing with this?
Yeah, it absolutely is. We spoke to our support system all the time, between friends, family. We consider, the restaurant is very much our family as well. I think that's how successful restaurants look at the staff that's around you, those are your brothers and sisters. Sure. So, schedule, everybody just said, take whatever time it was. So I worked all the time that I was in the hospital, but spent about three and a half days on site as well. The COVID actually, the timing of COVID and the timing of the political turmoil of this country honestly helped our thought process a lot, which was Teddy's story, no matter what, needs to be viewed as a positive light for people right now. This is not somebody who is, it's not cancer trying to beat Teddy, it's Teddy beating cancer. Even through all of his complications in the ICU and everything. So we kept a journal entry online going, and we wrote it from his viewpoint. And it was always Teddy giving people the good news. And when he had bad news, it was he didn't understand the bad news because he was less than a year old, and would fuddle up the words in how he wrote about it, would refer to his all of his nurses as his boyfriends and girlfriends, and the doctors as his other parents. And so we made it about this community coming together to be a beatable, something that is beatable. And we're very fortunate to be in a modern world where this modern medicine can help us. But like, I don't know, the guests at the restaurant would come in and ask about it every day, and it became this, everybody in our community was Team Teddy, as we called it.
Yeah.
And I think we just refused to dwell on how awful it is to be diagnosed with cancer. And our other story, the other line that we are telling people is, everybody'd say, well, you guys go and get it. And, this isn't us. This is Teddy's story. He's the one who's doing it. He's the strong one. We appreciate you saying that to us. And we'll be sure to tell him that your strength is with him. But people needed it. People needed a really positive story in 2020. It was grim for families, and we want to let people know that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
And that's a great point. We really did need things to brighten our spirits during that time, and continuing. And so his continued progress is going to keep that light kind of shining. So in the middle of all this, you took some action that really only a chef can do, I think, in this case, and that is that you contacted a few of your chef friends, and you all got together. I don't want to say guys, but there could be some women in there. And you created Connecticut Chef's Care. So just as we wind up here, well, what is that, and what are you hoping can happen with that?
Yeah, so we leave it to the American Liver Foundation and other foundations to raise money for awareness. That we understand that there's a lot of money that goes into liver disease awareness. And when we started grilling questions to different foundations is, where does this money go? And the term awareness kept getting thrown out there. We started to understand that, Teddy's story and hepatoblastoma in general, or specifically, where was that money? Where was that research money? We are, all of the oncologists over at Yale, all the attendings are always working on studies to be able to learn more about their field. So we wanted to start raising money for those doctors to be able to look further into. And also, it's pediatric cancer. Everybody wants to help out, and we had a very personal story. So the first 3 chefs that I reached out to, which I consider to be 3 of the best chefs in the state, they all said, absolutely, how can we help? And I pitched them an idea of, what if everybody across the state of Connecticut, as a theory, got to sit in the same dining room during COVID. Right? In a time where it's impossible to sit down with strangers and eat, and everybody was doing these Zoom beer tastings or Zoom cocktail tastings or Zoom dinner. We wanted to, what were they eating at that time? Usually it was some snacks, but how did you sit down and have a meal? And so we coordinated a very complicated route of picking up from restaurants and reheat instructions for people across the state to, on a certain day in September, sit down, put a meal in their oven, take it out, and understand that not only was this for a good cause, but you're not alone tonight, and you're eating with others, and you're eating the same meal by 3 really great chefs and me, who's not in that group of great chefs, and so I'm just the crazy funny one, I guess, of all of us. I like doing all the big fun flair stuff. And it was the feedback on the event was that it was nice to have their money go towards pediatric cancer research and hepatoblastoma specifically, but people genuinely felt that they were finally together for a night. And that to me was huge.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, one of the terrible, a lot of terrible things about COVID, but the bigger challenge to it was that when something goes wrong, when someone's hurting or whatever, the most effective thing is to come together, right? Surround people, kind of like what you were saying with Teddy. But COVID forced us to stay apart. But people such as yourself found ways to be together. I know in New York, the phrase was being together apart, and so that was so important and so important in terms of the support you and your wife needed, with Teddy going through this. And what a wonderful way for you to turn that into something really positive. And those who are going to be watching our discussion here today, no doubt many of them are going to be parents of children who have liver challenges, liver cancer, and I believe that they're going to get a lot of support and encouragement from our discussion today. So Chef, I want to say on behalf of all of us at the American Liver Foundation, I want to thank you for your time today, but also sharing Teddy's journey with us. The telling of your story is important, and especially for those who are facing any type of pediatric liver disease or liver diseases in general. So we're grateful to you for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
If you would like more information about liver disease and liver wellness, we invite you to go to our website, which is www.liverfoundation.org. Also, if you would like to see previous episodes of this Liver Chat series and other educational videos, you can check out our YouTube channel. We'll all see you next time with a brand new episode of the ALF Liver Chat series.